All right, I'm here with Coach. Coach, I just want to make sure that I ask you again, is it okay that we record this interview?
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. Now, just for everyone watching, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Joe Bruneel. I am a special educator at Einstein High School. I am also the assistant athletic director, um, and I'm the defensive coordinator for the football team at Albert Einstein High School. Um, so,
Now, for everybody, can you tell us what county that is?
oh, I'm sorry. So Albert Einstein High School is in Montgomery County. It's in Kensington. It's, if you're not aware of Montgomery County, that's like between Bethesda, Silver Spring, and Rockville. We're kind of this small little area between all three of those. Most people know those cities. So I always say we're between Bethesda, Silver Spring, and Rockville.
Perfect. Now, again, it's part of my job. I need to know where everybody is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not great at it. I'm still learning myself. For everyone watching, we like to have the coach kind of tell us a little bit. So,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
um,
yeah. It's great school. Great school.
that's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
So we have. I have to start off with probably the question that I think everybody is talking about, and I don't really want to talk about it as much, but I feel like we have to. So can I just kind of get your thoughts on this kind of global pandemic that we're kind of going through right now?
Okay, so here's the deal. Like, I follow this so closely. I read so many New York Times articles about it. I've been telling people I act like I'm a public health official, even though I'm not. So I have been following this so closely, and I'm just a natural optimist. So I just always see things glass half full.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think right now it's really important that we be really cautious. Okay. I would tell people, please wear your mask. I would tell people, please stay home if you can. If you don't have to go out, don't go out. And I would say that it's this what we're doing right now is actually working, because we're seeing like we're seeing in New York, the curve is starting to go down big time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to see in Maryland, the curve is starting to go down. Not quite in Montgomery County, but in the rest of the state, the curve is starting to go down. So what we're doing is working. So I just say continue doing what we're doing. And if we have football in the fall, I'm bringing it up because I'm a football coach, that would be fantastic, but safety first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've seen it. I've tried to follow it, probably not to the extent that you have. However, we just saw Governor Hogan come out, I think yesterday or the day before, and he's going to lift the stay-at-home order tonight at 5
Yeah.
p.m. For everyone. This interview is taking place on Friday, which that's a good sign. And he talked about our numbers are going down, and over the last 2-week period, that's what we've been looking for. And I agree with you. I think the biggest thing is stay home if you can. And we understand everybody's circumstances are different. I'm fortunate enough where I can do this from home, and I was actually doing this from home before everything got quarantined. So, and I can tell you, it is not for everyone, and we have seen that, over the last 2 months.
You know what? I'm someone who I like being at home. I'm always like, reading something or watching TV shows, or I've been able to catch up on Billions on Showtime. And I'm always reading books. I'm always like learning stuff. I'm going through all my music. So I'm doing just fine at home. I know there's a lot of people and I take a ton of walks, and I know there's a lot of people who want to see other people, but I'm doing just fine. Like I'm fine with this.
No, I feel like I'm almost the same person as you. My family calls me a homebody. I would just rather be at home. I mean, granted, I would much rather be out watching sports than being at home, but to be safe. So with that, I don't know. Like you said, you're the defensive coordinator at Einstein High School, so you're a football guy, football coach. And luckily for you, the season ended before this thing started. So we talked with a basketball coach yesterday, and their season got cut short. They were in the playoffs, which stinks for them, and it stinks for all the girls.
Oh yeah. I feel so sorry for the teams that got their season cut short.
Yeah. I'm a baseball guy through and through. I feel, even to be honest with you, I don't think there's there's not a hierarchy of who we feel the worst for. I feel worse. I feel terrible for all of the athletes, all of the students, everywhere.
Baseball didn't get – I don't think they got one game in. The season never started. I think they got – like most teams got one scrimmage in, and that was that. And then
now, with that being said, have you been in contact with any of your players during this time? And if so,
Oh yeah,
you've been able to keep them motivated?
absolutely. Yeah, our head coach does a really good job of doing Zoom meetings, and basically what we're doing is we just had a Zoom meeting for defense specifically,
Oh,
and we kind of I introduced some of the new things I want to do defensively for this next coming season. Hope that it happens, and if not, whatever. But uh, and we had a Zoom meeting, and we had pretty good attendance. But he's been so good about setting up Zoom meetings. I mean, we have Zoom meetings almost every single day. So that's Sean Lompus, our head coach. He did a great job this past year. I should say that. But yeah, we've been in really good contact with our players.
well, that's good. That's good to
Yeah,
hear. I know, especially it's again. I feel like we're almost the same person. I'm an optimist as well. I'm
yeah,
glass half full. You have to be that way. You can't walk through life being glass half empty type of person. So
uh-huh.
I think that it's like it's like we're saying, stay at home. We need to make sure that this thing gets until realistically, without getting too sciencey and too health oriented, until a vaccine is developed, we're kind of stuck in limbo. So being able to introduce new concepts to the team and kind of almost mentally we're acting like you're going to start in August, and that's just kind of what you need to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm preparing for there to be a season. It could be truncated in some way. It could be reformed in some way. We may have a shorter schedule. They may allow more teams in the playoffs. I don't really know what's going to happen, but
Yeah,
I do know that when we take the field, our guys will be ready and they'll play really, really hard.
and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah,
Now I have a question. I might put you in a little bit of a tough situation here, although you said you're the assistant AD,
yeah.
so if we put you in charge of handling coming back to school in general or starting back up with sports, um, do you maybe have an idea or have thoughts run through your head on how you would do it? I know you just kind of talked about a truncated
Oh,
season.
um, this is in. So I'm going to get a little bit macro here.
Okay.
So what I think we're going to have is we're going to have a little bit of a mental health pandemic, in my opinion. So we're going to have a lot of people with a lot of uncertainty at home, and that's going to have an effect on the kids because we're going to have a lot of parents that are going to be out of work. They're not making as much money. It's going to be harder on everyone's family. So I think first of all, I think it's really important that we promote extracurricular activities right now because that offers structure to kids.
Mhm.
And that can really help out a kid at this time. Because especially high school age kids, 14 to 18 years old, that's a very impressionable time. So I see extracurricular activities, especially sports, as being something that can really help you out mental health wise during this period. Now, as far as how I would do it, um, I'd probably talk to the coaches. The coaches will tell you what's feasible and what's not feasible. So, I mean, I, I can say we're going to have to. I mean, we're going to have a lot of cleaning supplies. We're going to have a lot of wipes. We're going to have to. I don't know how we're going to play football without masks on. If I don't really know. I don't know what the logistics of that might be.
Mhm.
But I would talk to the coaches, and I think the coaches are so passionate about playing football that they will come up with good ideas um, to find a way to play these games. Because every coach, I guarantee you, every coach in Maryland wants to play the games so badly. We all need it. Like we need football. So I just think the coaches will have good ideas. I don't necessarily have some right now, but I know if you talk to any number of coaches, they all have good ideas and tell you what's feasible and what's not.
No, and I understand, and that's a tough question. Like I said, we un, we understand that it's not you're not in that position to make those judgment calls and those decisions. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that with football compared to other sports, it's like you said, we're looking at least in Maryland high school terms, it's the most physical contact sport besides wrestling, right? So you're going to be, whether you're hitting, whether you're talking about on the O line, blocking the D line, whether you're talking about guys tackling other guys, whatever the case may be, you're looking at the most contact, like I said, besides wrestling. So it's a tough situation, and especially with it being a fall sport, and we're like we've been saying, we're in limbo. So, I didn't expect you to have, concrete steps and, stage one, stage two, like we're talking about on a on our state scale or our federal scale. But
Okay, now let me just stop you there. It's funny that you say that because I was feeling really confident. I was feeling really confident about myself a couple weeks ago, and I was like, all right, listen, I'm gonna write a letter to Jack Smith, our superintendent, about some of my suggestions about how we should reopen school. And one of my suggestions was we have to make it easier for kids to have access to extracurricular activities. So I like to think I'm a solution person. So that question didn't bother me at all.
well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And it's one of those things. We So when to kind of backtrack a little bit, when I kind of pitched this idea about I wanted to interview coaches, because on County Sports Zone we've been doing, I would say probably about the time everything got shut down, we're doing different player profiles, and we were trying to highlight as many athletes as
Oh
possible.
yeah, I saw that. That was good.
And my thought process was, why don't we talk to some of the coaches and get their thoughts on not only what's going on around the world, but how it affects these student athletes in general. So,
Yeah.
and that's kind of why I've decided to start the interviews with these two first questions, just because there are so many schools of thought about what we can do, how we can do it, different ideas. Maybe one, like you're saying, maybe you have an idea that the superintendent didn't think about, and because you wrote that letter and these suggestions are made, maybe schools are able to open up sooner than they would have if that suggestion had never been made.
Right.
So, now is where we get to the fun part. At least the fun part, in my opinion, where we get to start talking about sports in general, and more specifically, you. So, I want to know, what type of coach are you? So,
Okay.
what are some of your philosophies, or what do you preach to your players?
Okay. So I've always said I'm a very positive coach, but at the same time, I have really high expectations for my guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like those guys know, my players know I love them, and there will be no bigger advocate for my players than there will be no bigger advocate for Einstein football players than me. I love my guys to death. And my thing is, I'm going to get as much ability out of you as a player as possible. And what I found through the years of coaching is when a kid sees that he can excel or she can excel on the football field, like other aspects of their life will pick up too, and they just become more confident.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not to brag, but I'm just a naturally passionate person.
Yeah.
And, and also positive, like I said. So I like to think my passion always comes out. And I like the biggest thing I say to my guys is, there's some coaches who say, I don't coach effort. The first thing I coach is effort. The first thing I coach is effort, because if you don't have effort, if you have one thing, play hard, give everything you can.
Absolutely.
So that's the type of coach I am. I'm a passionate coach. Attention to detail. Like, you got to have great attention to detail, because as I think so many coaches say, there's no such thing as a detail too small. And that's always been one of my philosophies. And the third thing is probably, you have to simplify things for the kids. Okay. And that's up to you as a coach. So what how I see it is, the better you know a subject, the simpler you can make it. The simpler you can make it sound. If you don't know a subject that well, it's going to sound like rocket science to those kids.
Yes.
But if you can take a complex idea and explain it in simple terms, that's going to do so much for those kids. And they're going to play, when they get on the football field, they're going to play so fast.
Because
so that's kind of who I am as a coach.
They're not going to be sitting there, whether it's your middle linebacker and he needs to figure out where he's going to blitz from. He's not worried about that. He sees the ball snapped and he's gone. He's good to go.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want as little. I hopefully we achieve that, but I want as little thinking as possible, and that has to come through practice and repetitions. That's really the way that you get there, and you also have to get players confident. That's my thing is, I need confident players out there. I'm going to tell you, when I think it was Red Auerbach who said, it was Bill Russell. Bill Russell said, Bill Russell, when he played for the Celtics with Red Auerbach, Bill Russell said, the thing that Red Auerbach always did was, yes, he corrected our mistakes, but more importantly, he wanted to tell us when we did something right so that we do it again. And that's always been one of my big philosophies is I'm going to tell a kid when he does something right because I want to see it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, and that's something that I try and, personally, that's something I try and live by with my life, not, whether we're talking about sports or whether we're talking about life in general. I was fortunate enough. So I graduated college in May of last year. I was fortunate enough to play independent baseball this past season. So
oh, really?
Yeah. So like I said, baseball guy through and through. However, I'm not going there this summer, going out to play. But the reason I bring that up is because in baseball, it's a game of failure. And, if you don't learn that from an early age, you will not be successful. So for me personally, once I figured that out, I was able to do the same thing in normal everyday life. If you cannot be successful in any task you do unless you're confident in your ability to do that task. So that's
yeah. Well, and then once you see that you failed and that everything's still okay, everything's still intact, you actually gain some confidence from that. I've always thought.
Exactly. No, and it's something that I've always preached, whether it's to some of my younger teammates when I was in high school, if I was a senior, if I'm talking to a freshman or sophomore, when I was in college, the same thing when freshmen came. You need to explain to them that it's okay to fail as long as you're learning from those failures. So,
yeah, I mean,
and in my experience, it's been I've had so many coaches throughout my life, and whether I know every player is different, and especially in football, you find guys that they kind of need that coach that is really going to just ride them until they get it right. But personally for me, I found that the coaches that are the type of coach that you sound like and with your philosophies, they're the ones who get the most out of the players. And they don't only make them better players, they make them better people for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a quote came up to me, or I'm going to semi quote here, but the chess champion, Gary Kasparov, I follow him on Twitter. He's a brilliant man. And, he of course beat a computer in chess. One of the great things he said was, you learn a lot from losing, but you should also learn from winning, because winning, we tend to think, oh, it was all great. But you sometimes will overlook your mistakes and wins. And it's real important to go back to your wins and look at things that you could have done better. Even though you got the result that you wanted, there were still things that you could have done better. And there will always be things that you can do better.
Absolutely.
As good as it gets, it can always be better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I can tell, or at least I think I can tell, that you take practices very seriously, because what you do in practice is what you do in the game, right? So
Absolutely.
Can you maybe walk me through some of your favorite drills or some of your favorite things you like to do at practice?
Well, listen, we had a pretty good season this past year. We were able to go 6-3 in the regular season. We won our first playoff game, and then we lost in the second round to Parkville High School. Really strong school.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of great memories during Friday nights. But my personal favorite memories was in an individual group with my linebackers. Mm-hmm. I just got so much satisfaction out of seeing kids who wanted to get better, wanted to learn, mm-hmm. And were willing to take coaching. And that's a really exciting thing. And so some of my best memories this past season was just individuals with my linebackers. Mm-hmm. And luckily I'm fortunate enough to be with the head coach. We really emphasize individual drills and fundamentals. Mm-hmm. And we have lengthy team periods. Don't get us wrong. I mean, we do team, but we really emphasize individual skills and practices. So one of my favorite, just if we're going to talk about some of my favorite drills, I love to do for linebackers personally. We tackle almost every single day. I mean, we're not bringing to the ground, like we're going to keep our guys healthy, but we tackle every single defensive end. We're going to tackle at some point. And I think it showed during games. I think we were a pretty good tackling team, but I mean, like I said, it can always get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, especially from a defensive mindset, I think that how are you going to be ready to tackle in the game if you're not at least tackling in practice? And like you said, it's not bringing to the ground. I'm not trying to hit stick
Yeah.
a teammate over there, but I need to get in the feel of wrapping a guy up, whether it's bringing him to the ground or not.
Right. And we had a lot of good teammates this year, and we had some guys who, they kind of understood. Listen, I'm pretty big and strong. If I go full bore on this kid, I might hurt him, and we need him for the game. So he's a valuable part of this. So our linebackers, and other members of our team, they really understood. Like, oh well, I could go full bore on this guy, but I'm not going to. So we had, just in general, we had just a great group of kids. I adored coaching them. It was one of the real pleasures of my life, coaching these guys.
Well, that's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
can you I'm not sure. You might not know the exact number. You might. How many seniors did you have last season? Or how many seniors do you?
I want to say we had probably 11 or 12 seniors.
That seems high for
Yeah.
Now,
I think we had a roster of about 31, 32. So we had 11. I think maybe 10 or 11 seniors. Nothing. Yeah.
So how are
So
we
we'll
looking?
turn over about a third of our team, and then a bunch of our the guys on JV will bump up.
So how do we think the outlook is? We're gonna go in the mentality of we're starting whenever the official start date is in August. Are we optimistic about the team for next season?
Oh yeah, I'm always optimistic. That's just I'm always optimistic. I always think I got a great bunch of guys, and I don't think it's any different this year. I think I can tell you, as far as my linebackers go, I think we've got a pretty talented group.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a pretty strong secondary, and we got a lot of talented kids coming back, skill position wise on the offense.
Oh, okay.
So I think we should be able to compete pretty well.
And I understand I feel like we've spent a majority of the interview talking about being optimistic and having a positive outlook. So I kind of expected that answer from you, but I was just curious to see what your thoughts were on the guys who were coming back to the team. Obviously, you're going to miss the seniors. Fortunately, as we said, they were able to finish the season before everything happened.
Yeah.
So I have a fun question. At least I think it's a fun question. I'm going to make you a mad scientist, okay? So I'm going to put you in a laboratory, and you're going to create the ideal player for you. Now, it doesn't have to be, I'm talking, it can be physical characteristics. It can be, physical attributes. It can be characteristics as in leadership or being able to motivate, great work ethic. Whatever it may be, you're the mad scientist. You're Dr. Frankenstein. Let's make this player.
Okay, I got to stop you there. Literally, so I've had all this time. I have checked family trees. It turns out I'm related to somebody very famous.
Oh, yeah?
This guy.
Really?
Distant cousin. So wow. I got a little. That's Albert Einstein, by the way.
No, I'm aware.
No, I was talking to the people at home.
Okay, good.
But so I'm a distant relative of Albert Einstein. It's not close, but it's not. It's there.
Yeah.
So I like to think I have a little bit of mad scientist in me. Anyway, so as far as like a player that I would create, what position?
Whatever you want to do.
Whatever. Okay.
I feel like we've talked a lot about linebackers. Let's create a.
What I love my linebackers. So probably my favorite players have always been the pass rushers. The big pass rushing outside linebackers like Derek Thomas or Lawrence Taylor or Von Miller or Khalil Mack today. And so I would probably create somebody about 6'3", 6'4", between, or are we talking about high school? They got to be in high school, right?
Yes.
Or NFL. All right. Well, if they're in high school, they're probably going to be. If they're 6'3", they're probably going to be about 220. If they're in the NFL, they're going to have some muscle, so they're going to probably be between 250 and 270. So probably between 6'3", 6'4", 250 to 270. And as far as a pass rusher goes, they got to have great bend. They have to work with their hands, and they have to have a relentless motor. And that's somebody who will run on every single play. who will go full bore in every single play. And it's got to be somebody who, with the outside linebackers, you're not just rushing the passer. You're also going to set a hard edge in the run game. You're going to keep taking on with your inside shoulder and turn the ball back inside to your help. And you're got to be able to drop into space, probably, and you got to play coverage. So I'm looking for somebody who can do all three of those things. So that would probably be my ideal player, an outside linebacker, 6'3", 6'4", 250, 270, who can rush the passer, set a hard edge in the run game, and drop into space.
Now, if we were to take that a step further, ideally, as a coach, you're looking for a natural leader, right? Especially from an outside linebacker, middle linebacker. Can you maybe talk about some things that, like I said, obviously we're looking for leadership here, but maybe some other characteristics that people maybe tend to overlook that you think would make this perfect player even better?
Well, there's just something about defense. I think the leaders are naturally, you kind of look towards the middle linebackers. They're usually the leaders. They're usually the signal callers. They're usually the ones that communicate the calls to everybody, make any adjustments. So probably, if I have to pick a leader, it'd probably be someone like an inside linebacker, middle linebacker type. And a leadership quality that I love is a guy who not always the most vocal person in the world. Okay, I want somebody who's going to show it and not just talk about it. Yeah. And then, I want somebody who is going to give everything. Jerry Kramer, right guard for the Green Bay Packers, he said with Vince Lombardi, he didn't want – literally what he wanted was everything you have. I want somebody who's going to give everything they have, and that is going to everyone on the defense, everyone on the team is going to see that effort that player is putting out, and it's going to that's going to become contagious. Absolutely. And when you show that type of effort, at that point, you don't have to say a lot, but what you do say says a lot. Yeah. It says so much.
And that's very true. When we're looking at the best players, and it doesn't matter what level we're talking about, if it's high school, college, professional, when you look at the best and the greatest players on the team, those are the guys that, let's look at it from a defensive standpoint. A guy who's going on every relentless motor on every single play, the guy standing next to him is dog tired and he's gassed and he's looking at him in the fourth quarter and this guy is still going like it's the first play of the game. He's going to want to work harder. He's going to want to step up for his teammate.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you can see how hard he's going. And another thing I love that linebackers do is, because I played D-line growing up, playing football, and just a great memory that I had was if I was beating an offensive lineman, I remember a linebacker just saying to me, "Hey, listen, you're kicking his butt. Keep doing this. Like I'm seeing this. I'm recognizing what you're doing. I see it's not going unnoticed. Your hard work is paying off. Keep doing what you're doing. Like that is invaluable. That you need people like that who can recognize, who can do little tiny things like that. I'm somebody who I believe in little things adding up. It's a great thing.
I agree 100%. I mean, yeah. 9 out of 10 times when you lose a game, you look at one little thing that if it's reversed, you're winning
right.
that game.
It's somebody not getting back on it's a cornerback getting beat on a double pass. It's somebody taking on a block with the wrong shoulder. It's somebody fitting in the wrong gap. It's not having good ball security. It's always something really small that loses you the games. And it's small things that add up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where, again, I'm baseball background here, but we talk so much in baseball about the mental game. And could you maybe elaborate a little bit about that from the football standpoint for those of us who are not too familiar?
So as far as like what
because like to me, when we're talking about the flow that I kind of saw there was, for me, when we're talking about little details of a game, these little mistakes, I tend to often associate them with mental mistakes. So, we're talking about whether it's, obviously there are some physical mistakes and, those happen, but But when I look at things and I see mental mistakes, those are when, and I'm not a coach, but those are when I'm more upset.
Yeah. Yeah, because those are more preventable. Well, I would say, what I would tell my guys defensively is, if you can line up, if you before the play, if you know your alignment and you know your assignment, two-thirds of your job is done.
Yeah.
Because at that point you just got to play the play. But guess what? If you know your alignment and you know your assignment, the play is you're set up for success. So you're in a good spot. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something I would emphasize to my guys. And another thing is, you should know what you're doing, but it also doesn't hurt if you know what your teammates are doing,
Mm-hmm.
because when you know what your teammates are doing, then we can kind of adjust things. Then we can kind of adjust what we want to do on very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So if an inside linebacker knows, oh, this guy's rushing here, this guy's dropping, that helps him out.
Absolutely. So now I do have a question. We talked a little bit about you seem to be a big reader. I hope I'm not making a false assumption there.
No, you're not making. I love to read. I love information.
That's what we like to hear from a coach, right?
Yeah.
Always trying to get better. So for us, we're curious about. So we talked a lot about how, at least yesterday, and going through kind of our prep with different interviews and different kind of roads that we can go down. How we've talked about the Zoom calls with your team in particular. How have you guys been able to maybe motivate or show or express to your players how they can improve themselves during the quarantine?
During the quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
Our head coach does a really good job with that. I think he sends out workouts to our guys, and I give our guys credit. Those guys want to get better. They want to work out, and they want to be physically fit and be in great shape once the games comes around and once the season comes around. So I'm really not in charge of that. I'm not the fitness guy. I'm not the best athlete in the world. So, but our head coach, that's more our head coach who does that. He does an excellent job with that.
So let me spin it. How have you been able to use the quarantine to improve yourself?
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I love X's and O's. So I'm there's a couple guys who I just on Twitter. Football coaches can learn so much. There's so many resources for coaches out there, and there's so many guys who get, like, if you need X's and O's help, there is no shortage of places you can go for X's and O's help. I'm always reading up on stuff like that. I nerd out to that. I'm always, if I have a spare moment, I love just drawing up plays and stuff like that. But here's the thing. I did that before the quarantine, so I'm always doing this. So that really didn't stop. But I like to watch. I like to every single team in Montgomery County. I like to watch and know what they kind of do. There are a lot of. There's so many good coaches in Montgomery County, and I really respect what a lot of coaches do. So any kind of tip I can pick up from watching those guys, I'll do that. So I'm always watching. I'm a heavy huddle watcher.
Okay.
And not just our games and not just upcoming opponents, but like I said, schools from all over the county. I love to watch them.
Yeah. Always. It's like we talk about, and when we talk about, and I say we as just a collective community of people, right? Who are, whether we're talking about high school, college, professional, whatever level we're talking about, the coaches that succeed more often than they fail are the coaches that want to get better. They preach to them. They preach to their athletes that, or let me back up. They understand that they cannot preach to their athletes that they want the best out of them if the coaches don't.
Exactly. Yeah, you look like a hypocrite. Like, how can I tell a kid, oh, come on, you got to get in the weight room. You got to get physically fit. You got to get stronger if I'm not getting better myself? I just look like a huge hypocrite if I did that.
And especially at, we talked about between 14 and 18 years old, very impressionable time for a student's life. So, that's really important. And kids can tell when their coaches are not being
right. The kids are smart. Kids are smart. They can tell. And You're absolutely right. They can tell with the coach. They can see which coaches are prepared and which aren't. So never underestimate those kids' intelligence when it comes to that kind of stuff.
So I don't have any more questions for you. I am going to shoot a question off the top though. So I think that I can probably say with no sports going on. I mean, I'm watching the KBO a little bit, but it's
Yeah,
very.
me too. Yeah.
But I feel like most of us. Have you watched any of the Last Dance documentary on?
I watched the first. I watched the first 2 episodes, and I got to catch up.
Yeah, I'm a couple behind myself, so I won't judge you for that. But if clearly you're a football guy through and through, if they were to do a last,
well, listen, I love all sports. I love any. My first love was baseball, and I love watching hockey too. So, but yeah, sorry, go on.
no, you're fine. If they were to do a Last Dance type of documentary about a football player, who would you want to see?
Ooh.
And it can be anybody. We're talking about position. What do you? Who would you be most interested in seeing?
I have something in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. I'm a shareholder. Okay, I'm a huge Green Bay Packers fan. I would like to see somebody. I didn't come up with this idea. I saw this on Twitter. I'm a voracious Twitter reader. Somebody on Twitter came up with an idea for the Last Dance of showing a documentary that follows what I think you should start 2005 draft. Aaron Rodgers gets drafted. Mike McCarthy is the head coach is the offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. He drafts Alex Smith instead of Aaron Rodgers. And then Brett Favre has his heir apparent drafted while he's still on the team. Yeah. And all that happens where Favre, he wants to come back. He gets traded to the Jets. Then he retires, comes back to the Vikings, beats the Packers twice. And then the Packers the next year win the Super Bowl. Like that to me, there are so many twists and turns that I think that would be so entertaining. And I mean, right now, like you can see history is repeating itself because the Packers just drafted Jordan Love while Rodgers is on the roster. I think Rodgers is like the same age that Favre was. And it was in the same exact spot that Rodgers got drafted, Jordan Love got drafted, or something like that. That's who I'd like to see the Last Dance on, if a documentary on.
I think what's interesting interesting about that idea is I don't think you need to be a Packers fan to be interested in that.
No, right? I don't think it would play. I think people love it.
I think
if anything, Packer fans wouldn't have to watch it because we can recount everything that happened in that whole saga. I mean, it was just like it was a little painful to have people boo Aaron Rodgers at Packers training camp and cheer Brett Favre, and I always loved Rodgers. But
no,
I think it'd be a great idea.
Well, awesome, Coach. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
I don't have any questions. You have any questions for us? Well, I say us. But
I'm just going to say I love your work. I check County Sports Zone all the time during the season. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. Our plan is to only make it better. I've only been on board since September. So we're going to continue to make it better and produce more content covering high school sports.
Wunderbar. Excellent.
Awesome, Coach. Thank you so much. And hopefully you'd be interested in doing this again sometime.
Please, can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love this.
We'll
I
get
want more.
Camera.
I need attention. Put the camera on me. I need it. Come on. Yes.
Awesome, Coach. Thank you so much. And
all right.
we'll talk later.
All right. Have a good one. Stay healthy.
You too.